Hey there, welcome back to Soup's Secret Show. This is episode 3. And if this is your first time watching, The Secret Show is a podcast where I talk about whatever's been on my mind lately, answer your questions, and do deep dives on topics in the dirt bike world that are just a little bit too specific for the YouTube algorithm. Quick heads up, this episode was originally posted on Patreon. If you want to get future episodes a week early and completely ad-free, you can join for just $2 a month using the first link in the description. Today, I've got a jam-packed episode for you, starting with a brief first impressions of a drone I seriously didn't think I'd like, the Hover Air X1 Pro Max. Then I want to talk a little bit about sponsorships, some of the options I know of, experiences I've had, and how you can go about getting in on the action yourself. I also want to share some ideas with you for the future of Soup Moto and get some feedback from you about those ideas. And of course, I'm answering your questions, everything from how to ride tall bikes if you're short, to whether Chinese bikes can be trail ready, to whether I'd ever buy a KTM 300 two-stroke. Tons of great stuff in the Q&A this week. And just so you know, if you do want to skip around, I've got timestamps for each segment listed in the show notes below. Now here's some quick housekeeping before we get started. First off, I want to thank you all for checking out The Secret Show. It really helps keep the channel alive so I can keep bringing you the stuff you want to see. Now, aside from subscribing to this show on Patreon, there are a few other ways you can support Soup Moto. First off, Soup Moto t-shirts are now on sale. They're super high quality union-made shirts printed by Commonwealth Press right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can click the link in the show notes below and use code SoupMoto_summer25, which you can also find that code below, for 15% off. Now, if you can't afford to buy merch right now, please don't sweat it, because just watching and engaging with my videos over on YouTube helps a ton. But if you do feel like donating, you can actually just do so straight through YouTube by clicking the thanks button below the videos over there. I'm also a Motosport affiliate, so if you have a bunch of bike parts or riding gear or accessories you were already planning on buying, you can click the Motosport link in the description below, fill up your cart with whatever you want, and then when you purchase, I'll earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. Now, for those of you who are outside of the US who have told me that the Motosport links don't work, you can actually do the same thing through Amazon. If you click my gear recommendations link below, and then you click the little menu tab, and then you click the EU version on the top of that website, on the menu tab, you'll be able to purchase my recommended gear through any of those links, plus anything else you want to buy on Amazon, and I'll also get commission from that. Now, I'm also partnered with Dango Design. Those are the ones who make the gripper chin mount that I love so much. So if you're looking to record your rides and you want the best POV, you can grab yourself one of their gripper chin mounts through the link below. And don't forget to use code SoupMoto10 for 10% off. And lastly, I also have a discount code for all Cardo products. So if you're already thinking about buying a Cardo to listen to music while you ride and chat with your buddies during those long enduro loops, you can use code SOUP, S-O-U-P, at checkout for 10% off as well. Without further ado, let's dive in to The Secret Show. All right, y'all. So first off, I just want to talk a little bit about this new cool little gadget that I got. It's the Hover Air X1 Pro Max drone. Now, you may have seen this on YouTube, or Instagram, other social medias, maybe on YouTube, who knows. There's been a lot of like ad campaigns about them recently, and I've seen them. I saw them before I ended up getting one. And I kept seeing these videos and I was like, this has to be a gimmick, right? Like, there's no way that these things work as advertised. The whole point is basically there's no pilot. You don't need to control it or anything. It just follows the rider with AI. And yeah, it just follows you around. And it's super simple. It takes off from your hand, lands in your hand. It sounds too good to be true, right? So I'm like, there's no way this product actually works. The videos I was seeing, they would always cut the clip like right before it looked like as if the rider was about to like go out of frame or something. So I'm like, yeah, there's no way this actually works as advertised. So, and plus, a drone is honestly something that I never would consider buying unless I had a bunch of extra money lying around. Like I'm definitely gonna be buying like a new bike, different riding gear, that sort of thing before I would buy a drone. I just didn't see myself using it. But I got this guy that reached out to me via my email, and he turns out to be working with this outdoor PR agency. And he was like, hey man, I got some of these hover air drones. Wondering if you want me to send one over so you can test it out. I was kind of a little bit skeptical at first. I did a little research on the guy. He's ended up seeming legit. And also, by the way, I am going to be doing like a full first impressions video this week on the channel. So you will be seeing that. But in the secret show here, I'm going to be just talking a little bit about the story about kind of how I got it and my experience with drones in the past. I'm not going into like specifics about the product necessarily, so you can find that on this week's episode on YouTube. But anyway, so yeah, I kind of vet this guy, make sure he's legit, not like trying to scam me or anything. And I was like, is there like anything that I have to do? Like what are my deliverables, right? If you send this to me, and like, can I keep it, or like are there strings attached? Like what's the deal? And he was like, no, like, we'll send it over to you for free. You can keep it afterwards. All we want you to do is make like a 1 to 3 minute review on the product. He didn't say whether it had to be positive, negative. Obviously, if they give me something and tell me it has to be positive, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to like lie to you guys. So I would only be giving you like honest feedback. So I was like, all right, sounds okay to me. I don't have to do anything about it. Like I said, I had really low expectations about this thing. I thought it was kind of like gimmicky, like I said, wouldn't really work as intended or as advertised. So anyway, it shows up in the mail, and for like 2 or 3 weeks, I'd kind of like put it off. I was like, yeah, I have this. I never unboxed it. I was like, once again, my expectations were super low. But the other day I ended up trying it out, and I'll talk more about like I said, how it actually went in the video on the channel. But surprisingly, it turned out awesome. And you'll also see footage on the video this week as well from the drone. But dude, it freaking blew me away. And so much so that I actually, if now knowing what I know, I would actually consider buying one if I wanted to, like definitely for the channel. I think it's going to provide a much better perspective that the POV helmet cam view just can't really offer. But also, like, if I was just a casual rider and I just wanted some other cool videos to like show my friends or my family, honestly, this is a really good way to do it. So if you guys have done research on these drones and you are curious about getting one, you can also buy one through the link in the show notes below. I do have an affiliate link for them, so I'll earn a commission. If you're still up in the air, definitely don't do it. I mean, they are kind of pricey, so definitely wait till you have more information and like actually know for sure you want to get it. Hopefully my first impressions video this week will help you understand a little bit better, but I only tested out this once. I didn't really put it through its full paces by any means, so I really got to test it out more in the future to do like a full review on it, which I'm excited to do. And plus, since they sent it for free, like I can basically, I don't want to say trash the thing, but I can really take it on some difficult terrain that maybe is like pushing its limits a little bit and really see what it does, which I actually like. I'm pretty happy about the fact. Obviously, I'm happy that I got a drone sent to me, but I'm happy the fact that like, because there's no strings attached, I can kind of like really put it to the test and be honest about it. But basic first impressions, just casual riding, the thing performed awesome. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. In the past, I have had drones. I used to like be into YouTube before I started this channel as well, and I was doing more like different style content than than moto stuff. But I did have a drone before. I got 2 drones actually. I had the original like whatever it was, like the DJI quadcopter one that was white, and then I had a smaller one, the DJI Mavic. I think it was the DJI Mavic. Anyway, I liked them, but I just never used them because they were such a pain to set up. And that's one thing about this Hover Air, that like you don't even need a controller. And it's also very small. You could literally throw it in a backpack, take it along with you on your ride. So it's kind of like, it takes all the crappy elements for me out of why I never used my drone before, and just took all those away and made it like so much more usable. So anyway, look forward to that on the channel. I got that coming soon. I just wanted to give you guys kind of like a heads up and behind the scenes as to what's going on. Because this is the secret show after all. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is sponsorships. All right. So as far as sponsorships go, this is a question that I had a lot whenever I was much younger, first starting to get into dirt bike riding and racing. Obviously, if you watch pro racing of any kind, you'll see people are always talking about sponsorships. You'll always see logos of their sponsors everywhere, right? On the banners along the track, on the bikes. Like it's a very deep rooted part of our culture. Whereas like other sports, they're definitely starting to get more sponsorships, but like back in the day, you'd never see like any branding on like NBA uniforms and stuff. Whereas now they definitely are sort of adding the little logos and stuff here and there. But like, it seems like in other sports, you don't see sponsorships as overtly as you do in motocross. Which I always thought was kind of cool in a way, because in dirt bike racing, the products and the brands and sponsors that we're representing actually do oftentimes directly benefit us as riders. Like they're literal parts that we use, we stand by them, that sort of thing. So I don't know, it's a little bit different than just like a gimmicky sort of sponsorship that doesn't really have anything to do with dirt bike riding. But so yeah, anyway, I digress. When I was younger, I would always think about like, how am I going to get these sponsorships? Like I want to be a sponsored rider. You look up to all these pro athletes and stuff and they're all sponsored. It's pretty cool. Plus, I mean, how awesome is it to get sent free stuff or get discounts on things and that sort of thing. So when I was young, I did look into it. And like I said, if you know anything, if you watch my videos on racing on my channel, you'll know that I never was like super big into racing, but I did do a few races here and there very inconsistently. And I did get what you might call sponsored. Now, it wasn't a full sponsorship. It was more of just like discounts on products, which I must say did help a lot, right? And back in the day, I used this website called Hookit, Hookit. And I just checked, and it seems like they're not active anymore, really, but they were pretty big before. And basically what it would do is you'd make a profile, you'd kind of put a little about me section. It was honestly like a dating profile for the extreme sport that you do. And then you basically put in all your stats, how much you ride, just information about yourself, what races you plan on doing, past results, all that stuff. You can put photos and everything. You could even track your rides when you do it, and it would give you like a score. And then you could apply to all these brands' sponsorship programs. And, you know, they would give you anywhere from like 10% to sometimes like 50% off. Like I said, which obviously, as you all know, motocross and dirt bike gear is very expensive. So any sort of discount like that is very helpful. And usually they would just require you to, like, I don't know, run a sticker on your bike or on your truck when you go to the races and that sort of thing. They're pretty casual sponsorships, almost to the point of I wouldn't even call them sponsorships, but nonetheless, they really help. And so, like I said, Hookit was the thing I used before. Now, I am currently doing it because it does help a little bit, but I'm not like super serious on it. So I just kind of set up a basic profile and just applied to whatever products I was already using. So I use the website called mxsponsor.com, and Hook It, the difference between Hook It and MX Sponsor, Hook It was free. MX Sponsor, you can make an account for free, set up your profile, start applying to brands, and then you'll start getting sponsorship deals or like discount deals and stuff like that. But you can't accept them and like get the code until you pay. And I think it's like $50 or $60 for a year subscription to MX Sponsor. Now, so what I did was, for me, I basically applied to all these, companies and stuff, and then I waited until I thought about what I would buy from each one of these companies. So like air filters, chain and sprocket, blah, 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 whatever. Set of riding gear, that sort of thing. And then I added up the price of all that stuff, and then I estimated how much of a discount I would get based on those offers. And once the discount reached like well above that $60, like then I decided, okay, it's worth it for me now to sign up. So at least that's a good thing. They do let you see the offers before you make your paid account. So it's not just like a shot in the dark. You pay the $60 and then you never know whether or not you'll get the sponsors or not. So yeah, I ended up getting enough like discount deals to where I was like, okay, if I buy X amount of things that I was already planning on buying anyway, then it will be worth it for me to pay the $60 to get these deals. Now, one thing you do have to watch out for and keep in mind is they'll sometimes get you with shipping. So for example, if I have a Maxima sponsorship or a Maxima discount. If I were to buy like one little thing of oil, my discount really would not cover the cost. And if you shop on places like Motorsport, sometimes if you fill up your cart, I think it's $73 or maybe it's $100, whatever. If you get over that threshold, they'll give you free shipping. So oftentimes it's more worth it to like buy all your stuff on Motorsport or from your local dealer and not pay shipping than it is to go through these sponsorship websites. And yes, you get a discount, but it ends up like evening out when you pay like full price shipping. So the only way it really works is if you buy a bulk amount. So I bought like a bunch of oil, a bunch of lubricants and stuff. Like I basically put together like a bulk order of Maxima products to make it worth my while. So I actually did make get the value out of the discount. So just be mindful of that. Like it's not foolproof. You're not going to go into it and like, you see like 50% discount, but then you do have to factor in the shipping as well. So just be mindful of that. But that's one way that literally anyone, even complete amateurs, even people that aren't racing, I suppose, could get these deals. It's just something to think about. Obviously, be smart when you're doing it. Calculate, how much you need to spend in order to make it worth it, all that stuff. But that's one way. And that's the way that I have the most experience with. Now, the next way is like legit, what I would call legit sponsorships. And you can do this from anyone from your local bike shop to all these companies that I am talking about prior. Basically what you do is you build up a resume or a cover letter of sorts. You talk about, different things like your value that you bring. So if you're a very fast rider and you have a bunch of good accomplished race results, you would definitely want to list those on there. Or if say you're someone like me who I don't do much racing, but I do have a large following on social media, I have an audience, you would leverage that pro or that like skill, I guess, that you have in your cover letter or your resume. And then you would either get in touch in person with some rep from the company or the dealership. If it's in person, it's probably going to be your local dealership that you would go into and introduce yourself. Or if you already know them, just tell them you want to talk about something, or like hand them your sort of resume that you've prepared, whatever. Or if it's like a bigger company, you can, scour the internet, try to find an email of some point of contact within the company and send them an email. Now, just full transparency here. I've tried this. It really didn't work well for me. I haven't tried it in a while, but I sent out a ton of emails and didn't really get many responses. So this will be frustrating. Probably the best way to do this is, and really the main way that this will actually work, is if you're going to a lot of races, people will start to notice you and see you, and they'll probably start reaching out to you either in person at the races, or they'll somehow like get a hold of you on social media. That's probably the only way that these like legit sponsorships are going to end up working for you. And now these could be discounts, but they also could be like giving you free stuff and that sort of thing. But usually, at least in my experience, these don't happen from you reaching out to companies. It's usually you build some sort of buzz by just doing what you're doing, and then the companies will reach out to you. For example, that's exactly what happened to me with this Hover Air drone thing. I never reached out to them. A PR guy just reached out to me and said, hey, we want to get this product to you and see what you think and get your feedback on it. So that's like legit sponsorships, I guess I would categorize them as, more than discounts, that sort of thing. And like I said, that's sort of the way you go about that. But I don't have as much experience with that. I wish I did. But just from what I've heard and that sort of thing, that's the information I can give you on the legit sponsorship front. Now, the last thing that you could potentially do is, if you are flexible with your employment and you want to give this a shot, you could always try getting a job either at your local dirt bike dealership, or say you're good with marketing or something, you have a marketing degree, you could try to get a job for one of the companies, like maybe FXR, a gear brand, or I don't know, DJI, to get action cameras, or even try to get work at a motorcycle place. And this is also not like a traditional sponsorship type thing, but I guarantee you, if you work at a dealership, you'll definitely get like discounts on parts. You'll get like an employee discount. Same thing at whatever company you choose. So that's another option you could go if you're flexible on like what you do for work. Plus, hey, maybe you'd like working within the dirt bike industry if it's your hobby. Who knows? I've done this in the past, not with dirt bike riding, but with scuba diving. I was really into scuba diving, technical diving, cave diving, that sort of thing. And I ended up working at my local dive shop for like 2 years. And it was great because I got to use a bunch of the equipment that we had in-house. I got a lot of stuff to use for free air fills, that sort of thing. I got big discounts on gear, like at basically dealer costs sometimes, depending on different factors. But yeah, I'm sure it's the same across industries. So that's always an option. It definitely worked for me with diving. So you could do the same thing with dirt bike riding as well. But yeah, that sort of thing with sponsorships. I just kind of wanted to give you guys some information on that, because when I was younger, I basically had no idea how these people did these things. Because sometimes in the contracts, you're not actually allowed to talk about specifics, which is it's understandable, but it's kind of annoying when you're trying to find information. And you're also like, with the MX sponsor thing, like, or different discount websites like that, you don't want to take the sponsorship and then you're locked in and you realize you're getting screwed over on shipping and you're ending up basically paying full price anyway. So just the lack of transparency within the whole realm of sponsorships and stuff is a bit frustrating to me. So I just figured I would share that information with you guys and kind of maybe give you some ideas, get the wheels turning if that's something you want to do. Obviously, not everyone needs sponsorships. It would be great to have, but if you're just riding casually, it's not that big of a deal. So just something to think about. Figured I'd share the information I had with you. If you guys have any more information that you want to share with me, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Always love to learn more about that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know. Just thought I'd sort of share the information I had with you. Now, another thing I want to talk about is future plans for Soup Moto. Now, I did recently update the About page on the Patreon because I got a lot of free memberships to the Patreon, but I don't think many people some people obviously understand what Patreon is, but I think a lot of people don't quite understand what it is. And Patreon promotes that free member button. So a lot of people ended up joining my Patreon for free, but I don't think they realize like they can't get access to the secret show unless they get one of the paid tiers. So I rewrote the about section on the Patreon. If you guys want to check it out, you can give it a read. But basically, I just kind of wanted to give an idea of like what Soup Moto is all about, what kind of my goal is, what I want to make the channel and the community, and also like kind of give you guys an idea of like what your contribution is going towards when you do pay. Like, you might be asking like, well, why am I paying for a podcast that you could have just released for free? Well, it does go to support these things, but what are these things that I'm doing, right? Aside from just helping me be able to do this as my, way of work, paying the bills, that sort of thing, just keeping it going, keeping it afloat. It also helps me like expand and do more so that I can bring you guys more of what you want. And so some of the I just wanted to kind of like spitball some of my ideas with you. Some of them I wrote down on this new about section on the Patreon page. Some of them I didn't. I just have here and I want to share with you. But the ones I wrote on the about page were like things like obviously being able to get my hands on different bikes to sort of review for you guys, give you more information about, kind of like what I did with the CRF 250F. I think that's been super helpful to a lot of people. So I definitely want to like get my hands on other bikes, whether that's doing demo days and, being able to travel all over the place to do demo rides, or, actually buying bikes. Who knows? I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it, but that's something I would like to do. Definitely. It's not the full sort of thing of this show, but it's definitely a component of it. I like to inform people who might not know the differences, because honestly, bike choice is very confusing. Even to me, I've been around it for years. There's a whole group of bikes that I knew nothing about, and there's a lot of research you got to do. So being able to actually ride the bikes firsthand to give you like a true to life representation of what the bike is good at, how it performs, is, I think, really important to you guys and also really important to me. So that's one thing that your contributions will help, obviously. And the other thing is doing like in-person ride days. So I do have property here in Pennsylvania. I know a lot of you guys are not local necessarily, but I do have property here in Pennsylvania, and I would love to do some events either on my property or maybe renting out local motocross tracks or riding areas or something like that for sort of like a Soup Moto super chill, casual ride day, where we just go out, have fun, all ride together. Because I think this community is really awesome because of how like-minded we are in just wanting to have fun on dirt bikes, trying not to take things too seriously. And so sometimes when you go to the track, you run into people that are just like way too serious about it, and sometimes they take the fun out of it, at least in my experience. I don't like to do that. I like to just be chill, keep things casual. I think that's where I have the most fun. So I want to kind of make an experience like that with you guys. So I would probably start off doing ride days here in Pennsylvania because it's just be the easiest logistics wise. But in the future, another idea is going to you wherever you are, sending out the stickers. I've been sending free stickers to a bunch of people, building up my email list, and I've sent stickers to like tons of different countries outside of the US, tons of states across the country as well. And I know you guys have been telling me about all these interesting riding areas you have, and I think it would be super cool to just showcase to all of you all the different variations of riding there is that like our world has to offer, and sort of do it through the lens of maybe like visiting different members of the community and kind of just seeing where they ride. I think that would be super cool. But obviously, travel cost, possibly getting like a Sprinter van or something, or even like, I don't know, I would have to like either rent bikes if I was out of the country or like ship my bike. I don't know. It would be it would be a nightmare logistically, but that would be what, you know, your contributions would be going towards. I just think that would be super cool. I think that would be a great way to just not only get to know the community better and like build a more tight-knit community, but also just get to see what the world has to offer and maybe help you guys, you know, I don't know, plan some riding trips, or just, I don't know, just give variety to because there is so much variety in our sport. And so just, I guess, showcasing that variety would be really cool. Now, so that's what I had listed on the Patreon page. One of the wacky ideas I had was a race event. Now I want to call it, I think I want to call it something like Soup Moto, the Soup Moto Jackpot GP. And the reason I got this idea was because I was looking at like contingency payouts and like A class, you know, expert class payouts for different local races. And it's kind of cool, you know, you sign up for the class, and then the winner or the top 3 or whatever, sometimes the whole way back to top 10, will get paid out a certain percentage of that like pot, right? But what I thought was kind of, I started thinking about it like, oh, we should do this for like, you know, different classes too, not just like expert pro classes. But then I quickly realized what the reason they don't do that is because people will sandbag. You know, you'll have like the fastest guys like lowering their classes and being scummy, and then taking the money, just like, you know, sandbagging, winning C class or any amateur class, and just basically stealing the money. And there's really no way to like vet when riders sign up how good they are. So it would be so easy to like scam that. And I think that's why a lot of places don't do it, and I've really never seen it. But my idea was, how about if the payout has nothing to do with the winner? It's just a fun race anyway. You pay the same price as you would to enter any normal race, but a portion of your entry fee would get put into a jackpot, and then after the race, a random winner, or like a just anyone. It could be the person that got dead last. It could be the person that got 50th. It could be the person that got 3rd or 1st. You know, you don't know. It's literally a random drawing out of all the entries. I thought that might be kind of cool, especially if it was like a hair scramble format maybe. Or I also thought maybe you could do some sort of like weighted thing where like the better you finish. So if you get like first place, you get, you know, X amount, you get like 20 entries. If you finish, you know, 10th place, you only get maybe 1 entry or something like that, where it'd be like, you still do get higher chances, higher odds if you're like faster and you win. But there's like no classes. It would just be like a one big open class. You'd run it like a hair scramble. You could do like different class starting lines, like, you know, C class could start behind obviously A class and that sort of thing, A class and B class, but it would be all based on overall timing, not like your legit place you finish. So anyway, I just thought that would be kind of a cool idea of a sort of race format that I haven't really seen before. I mean, maybe someone's done it, but I just thought it would be kind of fun, a little bit like random and exciting to have like the potential of the person literally in last place to win the jackpot. So I don't know. I thought that'd be kind of cool. Another thing I thought would be cool is having a ride day, and then when the sun goes down, having like a concert afterwards, getting like maybe some local bands or something. Just hang out after the ride day. I don't know. Just thought that would be kind of cool. Then the last idea I had was new types of merch. So the next thing that I really want to try to do is gloves. The problem is I'm having a hard time finding a supplier of the blanks. I have the person that would be able to like print the design onto it, but I'm having a hard time finding a reputable source of the blanks of the gloves. But once I do, I'd really like to make gloves. I think that would be really cool. I think there's a lot of cool designs we could go for as well. And then additionally, handlebar bags. I've been testing out a couple different handlebar bags, and I've sort of found the features that I really like. So at some point, if I could get custom handlebar bags made, with all the features that are like essential to me and I think you guys would really like, and then, you know, put the Soup Moto logo or maybe some cool designs, that sort of thing. I've been loving my handlebar bags ever since I put them on both my bikes. I think they're like an essential piece, no matter what kind of riding you do, unless you're literally just racing motocross. You obviously would probably take it off for the race, but any sort of casual riding, it just is so nice to be able to bring your phone with you, or like a little protein bar, or you know, your keys to your vehicle, so you can actually like lock it up, whatever. It's just nice to have a little bit of storage on your bike. So yeah, I don't know, those are some of the ideas I had. Additionally, maybe hats would be kind of cool. Maybe when winter hits, hoodies, whatever. I don't want to do just a bunch of basic merch though. I do want to do like cool looking merch, and also I want to always be sure to keep the products high quality. I hate that just like very cheap print on demand, copy paste crap merch that a lot of YouTubers do. I never want to do that. So, you know, obviously hold me accountable, but yeah. So any merch that I do would be like well thought out. I would make sure that it's actually a good product before I would sell it to you. So anyway, that's the deal with merch. Let me get into, I think we're ready for the Q&A, honestly. All right. So, let's just dive right into the Q&A. We got some pretty good questions this week. I'm kind of excited to dive in and chat about them. The first one is a question that I get a lot from people I ride with. It is, how do you ride a taller / bigger bike when you're short as the ants? And I like how this commenter said that, short as the ants. So when you're really short and you're riding a bigger bike, it can be really challenging because, I mean, obviously, if you ride, you know how much you're constantly putting your foot down. Balance is a huge thing, and you know, one little log or rock can throw your balance completely off. So being able to like comfortably touch the ground to, you know, catch yourself if you're going to fall or something like that, is a must. And just stopping in general, or if you have like an older bike with a kickstarting a bike that you can't touch the ground on comfortably is really annoying. So I feel your pain, although I don't really feel your pain because I am 6 foot tall and I can pretty much comfortably touch the ground on any bike. But with that being said, I have ridden with quite a few people who are on the shorter side and can't do that. And my dad being one of them, actually. So he has learned a lot of tricks along the way for riding taller bikes as a short person. I'm not intimately familiar with the different methods, but what I will say is you kind of have to just adapt to your terrain and learn to, I don't even know what I'd call it, but like basically hang yourself off the side of the bike. So what I mean by that is when you're stopped, obviously you can't flat foot touch the ground on both feet. So what you have to do is you have to like drop your hip off to one side. So basically it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but you're going to have to get used to it in order to just ride the bike. Yeah, you pretty much just like hang your butt off, let's say to the left side of the seat. You keep your left leg on the ground. Your butt is like hanging way down off the side of the bike, like down by the number plate, and you can like rest your hands on the handlebars, and then your other foot would just kind of be like off in the air, maybe sitting on the foot peg or something like that. It's definitely like an awkward position compared to just sitting flat-footed if you can touch, but that's kind of something you're just going to have to adapt to and learn how to do, unfortunately, because with those taller bikes comes a lot more suspension travel, which is really helpful with any type of off-road riding. So sometimes riding the bigger bikes, the full-size bikes, obviously within reason. If you're a little kid, then you don't need to ride a full-size bike. You can ride a bike that fits you better. But if you're an adult on the shorter side, sometimes it may behoove you to ride a full-size bike rather than a smaller bike, just because of the terrain that you're riding on. So learning how to do this is definitely a skill. As far as like stopping on like a hillside, that's going to be your most difficult thing. obviously always lean up the hill, don't lean down the hill. So for example, like we're on this off camber right here, I would lean like this way to the left rather than to the right down the hill. You're not going to be putting your right foot on the ground. You're going to be putting your left foot on the ground, and just like leaning your bike this way up the hill. Kind of obvious, I guess, but it's just something that you always got to think about. Keep your eye out for things like, you know, I don't know, like well, I'm going to crash here obviously, but like tough blocks, or obviously probably not tough blocks in the wild, but something of that similar height, like maybe a log, maybe a rock that you can kind of just ride up next to and like rest your foot on. Always be looking out for stuff in the environment. If you can as well, what I do a lot, even though I can usually touch, I'll ride up to a tree and just kind of like lean against it. And I'll leave my feet on the pegs. That's something you can do. And then if you do have a kickstart, an electric start bike is going to be your best friend in this situation. But if you do have a kickstart, I feel bad for you. But what you can do is, once again, like using anything like a rock or a stump or your bike stand, you would stand on that stand with one foot, and then kick start the bike with your other foot. And that way you can still like fully stand up, because that's going to be really difficult to do, is kick start the bike when you can't touch the ground with both feet. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot. It takes a lot of getting used to. There's no one way. You just kind of got to learn a bunch of different little things to adapt. But those are some kind of things you can start with, I guess. And just so you know, it can be done. A lot of the best motocross riders in the world are extremely short. They probably can't touch flat-footed on their bikes, so don't sweat it. It's something you can definitely work around, and sometimes it may come to your advantage. Like I think, like I said, a lot of the best motocross riders in the world are very short. Kind of same mentality as like a horse jockey. Sometimes being closer to the bike helps in different situations. So not the end of the world, just something you got to kind of work around, I guess. Next question is, what are your thoughts on amateur motocross, on the amateur motocross scene? Expanding on that, do you think factory teams should be sponsoring at the amateur level? So this is an interesting question. I'm not sure how it is in different racing, like hare scrambles, more like off-road style desert racing. I'm imagining it's kind of similar, but at least in the amateur motocross scene, it is crazy the type of like factory level support that some of these amateur riders will get. I mean, you could get signed on literally like factory KTM Orange Brigade when you're on like a 50 or like a 65. You could get signed Pro Circuit, same thing, when you're on like a 65 or like Super Mini. It's crazy what the riders at the top level of the sport as amateurs, they're basically like pro riders as amateurs. It's wild. You know, I forget his name. Carson Wood, I think is his name. He just got signed to Star Yamaha as an amateur. I think he's like 14 years old. It literally happens all the time in the sport. It's beyond insane. I struggle to know whether I think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think the amateur motocross scene is good in some ways, but in other ways, it's very prohibitive. So at least from what my dad tells me, back in the day, there used to be like, he would go to a local race and there would be like 3 full gates of C class, and they would have to like do 3 different, like they would break the class up into 3. That's how many people were riding. Nowadays you could go to a race and there could be a C class gate that's not even full, and you move up to A class and there might be only like 1 or 2 riders in it. Depends on where you are, obviously. Certain areas are going to be more popular than others, but back in the day, that was not the case, according to what my dad said. So I think part of the reason is that how cost prohibitive racing has gotten. And I think I don't like that part of it. I think that is a huge problem. And I don't necessarily mean the bikes per se. I've got a lot of comments on one of my recent videos about talking about like what's killing our sport. And a lot of people were saying, well, the bikes aren't even, some people were saying the bikes are way more expensive now. Other people are arguing like, if you adjust for inflation, the bikes are actually cheaper than they were back in the 70s. And like, okay, whatever. You can make that stupid back and forth argument all day. I don't think that's the cost prohibitive part. I don't think it's the bikes themselves. I think it's everything else surrounding it. So like, you know, going to a track and having to pay, you know, like a ride day is one thing. You get the whole day to ride. Basically, you pay, I don't know, maybe like $40 to do it. Maybe I've seen sometimes like $100 to do it, whatever. But you get the whole day of riding, okay? But racing, sometimes like $50 a class. You might have to pay for like a camping pass if you're doing like, let's say a Loretta Lynn's qualifier. You might have to pay a promoter fee in addition to the race class entry fee. If you're running multiple classes, you know, double everything. And then just your entry fee admission to the track itself. And then in order to be competitive in like mod classes and things, like you're going to have to do a ton of engine modification, all that stuff. It all adds up, okay? So that part of it is just crazy to me. And then you have riders that are getting these factory sponsorships, and it's just like obviously not fair. Like they're probably getting all their entry fees paid. They're probably getting all their travel expenses paid. Maybe not. I don't know, to be honest. I'm just kind of talking out of my ass. But even if they're not, they're getting all their bike expenses paid, like, you know, mechanic, mods, gear, all that stuff, so that they can afford to travel to all these like amateur nationals and like big races and that sort of thing. It's just really cost prohibitive, like the racing scene, right? It's not the bikes themselves. Yes, the bikes are expensive, but it's not the bikes themselves. It's everything that surrounds it. If you tally up how much it costs to go to Loretta Lynn's, you would be blown away. I haven't done it exactly, but I've just tallied up like the cost to go to like some area qualifiers and stuff. It is exorbitant, especially if you want to do like the practice day on Friday or whatever. It's just crazy, man. Like, so anyway, that's the part that bugs me. Now the upside of it is, yeah, it's freaking cool that amateur riders are getting factory level support. That's awesome. But when it gives sort of like an unfair advantage, I'm not a big fan of it. I think yes, you should be rewarded if you're a fast rider, but I think maybe there should be some limitations on it, or at least if they're going to do that, find a way to like lower the costs of just racing in general. I don't know. I don't have the answers, unfortunately. I understand that, like, you know, the tracks have to be maintained. Obviously, like, the promoters are doing some stuff to, like, you know, promote the events, keep them going, that sort of thing. But to me, knowing just kind of some things that I know, and obviously I'm just speculating, it seems like, and this is all alleged, this is not, there's not, I don't have any information on this, but it seems like the organizers, the promoters of the amateur motocross scene, at least in the US, are skimming tons of money off the top. And like that money is not going directly towards improving the sport and like giving things that benefit the riders, but it's kind of just going in the pockets of like executives, that sort of thing. I think that's across the board in basically every industry we have, not just amateur racing, but like right down to, I don't know, freaking bottled water. Like whatever you want to look at, there's always going to be people skimming off the top, which is really shitty. And I hate that part of it. So that's my gripe with the amateur motocross scene, as is my gripe with a lot of stuff. So anyway, that's what I think about amateur motocross. Next question, very interesting one. When do you think is too late to start motocross? This is a great question. So actually, I think it's never too late. And the reason I say that is, yes, there's probably a point when it might be too late to have dreams of being like a professional motocross racer, of course. But with that being said, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the races and seen the vet classes. They just get older and older and older. I just went to a vintage, I've been going to AMA Vintage Motorcycle Days in Ohio every summer for the past like 4 or 5 years now. And the classes are just getting older and older. I've literally seen like a 75-year-old dude out there ripping a vintage bike. So, dude, literally it's never too late to start motocross. Obviously you want to, at any level you are, whether you're a complete beginner and you're young, or whether you're a complete beginner and you're old, or you're not a complete beginner or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just do it in a smart way. You don't have to push yourself to the very limits. You don't have to go and try to become pro. I think the goal should just be having fun. If it's fun for you to try to really push yourself hard and get these accolades and become a high level racer, that's one thing. But I would say if you just make the goal having fun and you're not trying to like push yourself to the absolute limit, then literally any age, you're never too old to start motocross. And I think that goes for any sort of dirt bike riding discipline. So yeah, good news. You're literally never too old to start. Next question. Could Chinese bikes with upgraded suspension and carbs be trail/motocross ready? I'm going to give kind of a mixed answer. So first off, I have never ridden any of these Chinese bikes. However, based on what I've seen and stretching your definition of trail/MX ready, the answer I think is yes. So you can obviously like Frankenstein any bike and make it upgraded to the point where it is functional for a lot of stuff. So yeah, I mean, especially trail riding, yeah, you can get away with riding a Chinese bike on the trails. Also, it just when you say Chinese bike, like I get what you're talking about, but from what I've seen, the quality varies wildly between brands. So it really just depends on what specific bike you're talking about and how capable it is, what components it has, what would need to be upgraded to what degree to make it, MX ready or trail ready. Is it going to be the most ideal? Probably not. With that being said, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Cove is a new brand that is Chinese. They made a 450. I would have to like fact check it, but I could be wrong. But if Cove, Kove, is a Chinese brand, yeah, I would have no issues with that bike. It's not. I know a lot of people are like, oh, China products bad, right? Well, I don't think that's the crux of it, right? I think maybe there was a time when that was true, where Chinese products were built cheaply, but I'm finding more and more that that's not the case. Just based on that drone that I just got, that's a Chinese company, Hover Air. It's a great product. It matches any other brand that I've seen. DJI, I believe, is a Chinese brand. They're huge. That's in the tech industry, obviously. They have a great tech industry there. But as far as dirt bikes go, they're getting better and better. And if brands like Cove are going to continue popping up, they're like the whole like Chinese bike bad thing is no longer going to be any sort of argument, really. I think where people come from with the Chinese bikes, they're talking about the really cheap like pit bikes or trail bikes. Yeah, obviously you're going to get lesser components on those, but oftentimes they're just like clones of the Japanese brands. So my problem with them is it's like basically you're not getting a guarantee of whether or not you're going to have parts available for them. Although if you're resourceful enough and you have the mechanical inclination to be able to work on the bikes, I see no reason why you couldn't like find the right product to repair it or modify it or whatever and make it work. It's just the thing you get with the Japanese bikes is you're guaranteed that, and Austrian bikes as well, that basically the mainstream bike manufacturers is what I'm talking about here, is that you get that like you get that sort of seal of approval, I guess, or like seal of assurance that you're gonna have genuine OEM parts. whereas you don't necessarily get that with a lot of the cheap Chinese pit bike brands. But yeah, so my answer is yes. I think, yes, if you modify them the right way, of course, they can be trail ready and whatnot. And if you get a bike like the Cove 450, if it is a Chinese company, yeah, that thing is built for motocross racing, and I think it would be track ready. I don't see why not. It might not be the most high quality, but different bikes also lack in certain quality areas too, even non-Chinese brands. So yeah, that's my answer on that front. Next question is, are you considering getting a KTM 300 two-stroke as you get more serious about enduro riding and racing? I think I've heard you mention it. I wouldn't buy a new one personally because you can get a pretty good deal on a low hour one. Also, don't listen to people who talk crap about the TPI. It's still better than 95% of two-strokes out there, except some of the carbureted 300s and the TBI. So what they're talking about there is transfer port injection versus throttle body injection, I believe. And that's in regards to the fuel injected two strokes that like KTM makes and the other brands that make those. Honestly, I don't know much about the difference between them. I have heard people complaining about one type versus the other, but I don't really have a solid opinion. Obviously, carbureted bikes, tried and true, but they do have their issues as well. I'm really intrigued with the sort of fuel injected bikes. My buddy had a KTM 250 XC, which was fuel injected. I'm not sure if it was TPI or TBI, but regardless, I was actually considering buying that off of him, and I still would be considering it. I don't know. It definitely intrigues me. I'm still not sure whether I'm going to go for a two-stroke enduro bike or like cross-country bike, or if I'm going to go for the four-stroke sort of hybrid motocross cross-country bike. Still not sure. Still up in the air. Leaving my options open. As far as the 300s go, I've never ridden one. I would love to try one out before I would consider buying one. So I just can't say for sure, but the door is not closed. I'm definitely considering it as an option. I just haven't ridden one, and I don't know. It's hard for me to say whether I'd want it when I haven't ridden one. So I would love to try one out. But yeah, that's my answer. Definitely am considering it, but I don't know. Next question. What is the cheapest bike for beginners, or at least something good for new riders? I saw some other commenters responding to this one and answering it for me in a way. My answer for beginners, depending on what type of riding you want to do, of course, but for the average beginner who has literally zero experience, the best deal you're going to find is probably finding some sort of used trail bike like the CRF 250F, the TTR 230, the KLX 230, KLX 300R, whatever, like some sort of used, maybe air-cooled trail bike, maybe like one of the old CRF 230s, something like that. If you're like an adult beginner, if you're a kid beginner, maybe get like a 110cc pit bike, or whatever is a comparable trail bike that fits your size. The reason is you can find them really cheap. People are often selling them, for fairly reasonable prices. And they're super tame and beginner friendly as far as the way they deliver power. I talk about the CRF 250F a ton on my channel. So if you want to go and check out my YouTube channel, I do have a entire playlist of all my videos about the CRF that you can see and kind of get to know more about why I like it so much. But I think options like that are great options for beginners. Now, are they the only options? No. You can also find very affordable used race bikes as well, and certain race bikes are going to be better for beginners than others. I talk about that here and there as well, but that's a pretty big topic that I don't really have time to dive into right now. But yeah, I would say just the trail bikes, whatever size fits you, and then try to find it used. That's what I would do, probably. Okay. Next question. What should be the deciding factor between two strokes and four strokes what type of person would benefit from one more than the other? Okay. So I'm so happy you asked this question, because a lot of people, they get on the bandwagon of one or the other, and they're like, yeah, I'm a two-stroke guy forever, dude. Two-strokes are if you ride a two-stroke, you're the toughest dude out there. Four-strokes are for wimps. And then other people are like, four-strokes all day, baby. Two-strokes suck. They blow up all the time. I'm happy with my four-stroke. Them two-strokes, they're always blowing up, bro. Well, all right. So I hate that discourse. I think that's one of the dumbest freaking debates ever. I think people know literally nothing about what they're talking about. They're just talking on emotion, and whatever it is, the bike that they have, they will be a little fanboy or fangirl of. It drives me nuts. I hate that debate. And I'm so glad that you actually asked a thoughtful question, like, what is the deciding factor? What type of bike would benefit one person from another? Because that's the way you should be looking at it. So once again, it depends on what type of riding you're doing. Some applications are going to be better suited for a four-stroke. Some applications are going to be better suited for a two-stroke. It also depends what type of two-stroke or what type of four-stroke you have. So, for example, I would definitely recommend a beginner to have a very tame, chilled out, corked up, air-cooled four-stroke, like a trail bike or a play bike, because of the way the power delivers. I would not recommend a beginner get a really punchy motocross race four-stroke, because those bikes are wicked. You crack the throttle and it's 100% power right away. People often talk about the power band of a two-stroke, saying like, oh man, when the power band hits, you just aren't ready for it. That's why it's so manly that you ride a two-stroke, brother. No. When you hit the throttle on a four-stroke, depending on the model, obviously, and now with mapping and stuff, you can make them more tame and that sort of thing. So it's sort of changing. But for example, the Yamaha is one of the hardest hitting four-strokes I've ever ridden. And I've ridden the same model year of Hondas and KTMs, back to back. And the Yamaha hits way harder than all of them. At least the bike that I had, the 2016. The new ones, I'm not sure. I haven't ridden them. But the 2016 that I had compared to the other similar model years, I just ran out of gas in this game here. The Yamahas hit crazy hard. And the reason I'm saying that is because when you... how do I refuel my bike here, brother? There got to be a way to refuel it. Fuel 0 gallon. Maybe I reset somehow. 1 second. Let me figure this out. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Sorry for the distraction. Low connection quality. I have no idea what that means. Anyway, sorry for the distraction. Okay, what I meant to say was, what I was trying to get out was, the four strokes, people talk about the two-stroke power band, how hard it hits, how manly you are if you ride a two-stroke, right? The thing with the four-stroke power band is a race bike, okay? I'm not talking about play bikes here. A race bike four-stroke, when you crack the throttle, it is like having 100% power band all the time, the whole way through. So the minute you crack it, it's like 100% power band, okay? That lends itself well to motocross racing because you're always in the power. You're never bogging. It's amazing. It's great. And you can be a lot more precise with your throttle control. But is that good for a beginner? Hell no, dude. Because you're literally always on the power band. Like the harshest part of the power, you're just, every time you crack the throttle, it's on. So yeah, I definitely don't recommend that sort of four-stroke for a beginner. So the whole point I'm trying to make here is, you got to look into like what exactly the type of riding you're doing, and then sort of do your research. Look at what, pros are using. Ask yourself and look up why they prefer that bike. Why is it that a 300 two-stroke enduro bike is the preferred option for hard enduro? Why is it that a four-stroke 450 or 250 is the preferred bike in GNCC or hare scrambles? There's different reasons for everything. And I could go into tons of detail about each bike, but I'll just give you kind of like a general rundown, I guess, on the main types. First off, you have the play bike, trail bike, four-stroke. They're going to be very tame power delivery. They don't have a ton of horsepower. They don't have a lot of get up and go. Very good for beginners. They're 4-strokes. Easy to maintain. Not a lot of maintenance steps you got to do. Very reliable. That sort of thing. Then you have their motocross race 4-strokes. Now those, like I said, they're going to have a ton of power. They're going to be very linear with their power delivery, but they're also going to hit pretty hard compared to the very slow roll on of the beginner sort of play bike 4-strokes. They're going to also have engine braking, which is something you won't find on the 2-strokes. And the engine braking is often pretty strong. So when you let off the throttle, if you're in a low gear, the bike will literally feel like it's braking itself without you even pressing the brakes at all. And that is due to the engine, the back pressure on the engine, basically. It will slow you down. So that's kind of good in motocross too, because you can be motocross is all about carrying momentum, being smooth, being very consistent. So when you let off the throttle, you're basically either you're on the gas or you're braking. So it's very efficient if you're good with your throttle control and you can use that engine braking to your advantage. You get very linear power, but it's also a lot of power throughout the RPM range. And that's why 4-strokes are great for things like motocross or like fast-paced GNCC racing. Where they don't do so good is with enduro riding or tight technical stuff. Some people report the power is a little bit harder to control. Some people, I mean, it's not impossible. People can definitely do it. We saw people in riders like Johnny Walker in Erzberg. He completed the race on a 4-stroke. It can definitely be done, but people tend to prefer the 2-strokes, the big bore 2-strokes like the 300s for hard enduro, because they report that they feel lighter, a little more like kind of flickable or like maybe jumpy, not as heavy as the 4-strokes feel when you ride them. And they're doing a lot of like low end lugging or crawling. And the good thing about the big bore 2-strokes is they have a lot of like low end up front, and you can really like roll on that throttle. And before the power band hits, they are very like, I don't know, they just crawl in a way that your rear wheel will not break traction. It won't start spinning. And that's something with hard enduro. You're going over all these rocks, roots, up really difficult climbs. You don't want the back wheel to start just spinning and digging yourself a hole. You want it to get all the traction so you can just crawl and creep up things. So yeah, that's one aspect of the enduro 2-strokes that people love. And across the enduro 2-stroke range, you have the 200cc, you have the 150. I've ridden them all. I've not ridden them all. I don't know why I said that. I've ridden the 150 enduro bike 2-stroke. I've ridden the 250cc cross country sort of bike, and they do have a very linear power delivery. Now in motocross bikes, the 2-strokes, they don't have a linear power delivery. They have, basically you have to hold them wide open. And I'm talking about the 125cc motocross 2-stroke, and I'm talking about the 250cc motocross 2-stroke. Now those are a little bit different, both of them, but basically you want to ride both of them pretty high in the RPMs. You're screaming them all the time, because the low end of them is kind of like gutless. It doesn't have a lot of power. You'll end up bogging all over the place a lot. And so there's certain times when that's really beneficial. Other times when it's not. It's kind of the older technology when it comes to motocross, so people don't use them as much. But the benefits are they're a lot cheaper to purchase, usually, than the 4-stroke counterparts. And they're also a lot cheaper to repair. So if you do like a catastrophic failure and you blow the whole 2-stroke up, the 2-stroke's going to be way cheaper to repair an entire rebuild than a 4-stroke would be. However, they do require more maintenance than the 4-strokes do. The 4-stroke motocross bikes, what you're doing mainly is you're changing the oil during recommended intervals. You are changing the air filter, and you are checking the valve clearance or the valve like tolerance, basically. And And then, yeah, you're replacing top ends, but you're probably not doing it as much as you are on the two strokes, especially small bore two strokes. So those are some of the reasons why someone might want to pick a two stroke over a four stroke or a four stroke over a two stroke. It's a great question you asked, because a lot of people just don't ask the question, and then they just pick whatever camp they think is more manly, and then they just brag about it all the time. And it's really, really annoying, and it just tells me that they don't know what they're talking about. So I'm glad you asked. I hope that helped. I hope you're more informed. Yeah, I don't know. Next question is how to get into flipping bikes. This is something that I've never really done, but I do have a quick recommendation. Look up Matt Berger, M-A-T-T, and then his last name is B-E-R-G-E-R. He does amazing videos about flipping bikes, and I would trust his knowledge on the fact. So YouTube, Matt Berger, or also Kincaid Pavic does some bike builds and stuff. He does a lot of those. I would also trust his advice as well, but I don't know a lot about it because I never done it, but those are some great YouTube channels to look at as far as flipping bikes, learning how to do that. Next question, would a CRF 250F be good for riding forestry and hill climbs? Like, do they have some get up and go, or are they as slow as they say they are? Okay, so the CRF 250F, when you say slow, it's slow to get on the power, and it doesn't have a lot of power. That's what people mean by slow. So if you're going to like drag race a CRF 250F, it's going to lose 9 times out of 10. It's not going to get the whole shot against race bikes or enduro bikes, that sort of thing. Is it slow as far as like if you're just ripping down a fire road? No, like the way that it's geared, it can still get up to probably like 70. It's not slow speed wise. It's just slow. It's like sluggish to get there, if that makes sense. It doesn't have a quick acceleration. So can it do different things like, I'm not sure what you mean by forestry. I don't know if you mean just like forest riding, or if you mean like, hey, I do forestry, I go cut down trees, I want to scout out where I'm going to work. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if you just mean like woods riding, I mean, you see the videos that I do. That's the type of terrain that they're capable of doing. They're not probably capable to do like super technical hard enduro, but they can do some challenging stuff. And they're also like not super capable to do like motocross tracks with like big jumps, but they can like get around the track. As far as hill climbs go, they're not going to be as great as like a big 450 or something that you're just like hole shotting up the hill. But can they tractor up a hill like nobody's business? Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, the harder, the more difficult the hill gets, the more you're going to struggle. But yeah, I mean, they can definitely do hill climbs. So I guess to answer your question, yes and no. Next question is, what is your favorite bike to ride and what's your dream bike? So, oh man, it obviously depends on what kind of riding I'm doing, which is my like default answer to any of these questions, but it really does. I have different bikes for different reasons. So like a 125 two-stroke, when you know the track well on a motocross track, you can get in the flow and you can just hold the thing wide open. Man, is it fun to ride. But I'm not going to lie to you. Now, keep in mind, I don't recommend 450s to beginners, okay? But I have gotten the chance to ride a 450 on multiple 450s on the motocross track, and I've been riding for like 20 years. So I have a lot of experience. I'm very comfortable on a bike. I'm not super fast, but I'm comfortable, okay? And dude, let me tell you, a 450 is really fun on a motocross track. I don't think everyone needs to have a 450, but and I'm not anywhere close to wanting to buy one right now, but I don't know. I struggle to not say that a 450 is not my dream bike. I would love a 450 to rip on the motocross track. They're just really fun. There's so much power, like way more than you could even use, and then most people could even use. So because of that, you can just hit crazy jumps out of the corners, and if you get in the flow of things, they're really cool. They're really cool bikes. So probably honestly, probably like a motocross 450 would be like my dream bike. I don't see myself getting one anytime soon, but I would love to have one. But also at the same time, I would love a bike that just fits what I do right now, which is what I'm looking for. I'm leaning towards the cross-country 4-stroke bikes, like the YZ250FX, something like that maybe. I had a motocross spec 254 stroke and I liked it a lot. It wasn't perfect by all means, but it got the job done. So I think a hybrid bike like that would be pretty cool. Or maybe a 2-stroke enduro bike would be neat. I don't know. That's kind of how I'd like to answer that. And then the last question, it's kind of like the question about the Chinese bikes, but it's more focused on suspension. It says, do you agree that suspension is the most important thing in a bike? Like Chinese bikes could be reliable in harder terrain if we switched the Chinese suspension to some WP, KYB, or Showa forks and rear shock absorber. And then they said, by the way, KTM owns WP. 33% of KYB is owned by Yamaha, and Showa is owned by Honda. Amazing free market. Öhlins is owned by Brembo, so it is bike manufacturer free, as well as Reiger. So yeah, anyway, that's some information. I haven't fact checked it. I don't know, but I do know that KTM is strongly associated with WP. I do know that KYB is used by Yamaha quite a bit. It's also on the Stark Varg, which is interesting. Showa, Honda, yeah. Anyway, point of the question is, do I think suspension is the most important part of the bike? I think it depends. Me personally, I've been riding my CRF 250F with really shitty, crappy stock suspension, and I've made do. But I don't think I'm the best example to go by. I think suspension is definitely really important. I think having a suspension that is adjustable is very important, but I don't necessarily think brand matters to the average rider. Maybe to the pro, obviously, they can tell the difference between like 1 or 2 clicks of a suspension just like very easily. I have no idea. I'm not like that well tuned with my bike suspension. But yeah, for like racing applications, I think suspension is extremely important, and for just making it feel better handling wise, 100%. Suspension is up there with like one of the most important things on the bike. So yes, by upgrading a Chinese bike with like crappy suspension, you would 100% be making it much better. That could be said with a Japanese bike like the Honda CRF 250F, which has really shitty stock suspension. If you upgrade that, same deal. But I think more importantly, once you have like a decent platform with suspension, I think the more important thing is just understanding how the suspension works. It's not necessarily the brand of suspension, whether it's KYB or Showa or Öhlins or WP. I think it's understanding like what the clickers do, how they work, what conditions you want to run what, and that's something that I need to learn a lot more about. I really don't know much about, but yeah. So to answer your question, yes, I think suspension is an extremely important part of the dirt bike. And yeah, if you have those Chinese pit bikes and stuff, and you can figure out a way to put WP shit on the bike, hell yeah, that thing is it's gonna handle so much better. So anyway, that's my answer. We did it. Each episode is getting closer and closer to an hour. That was my goal starting. My first episode almost went 2 hours. My next episode went like an hour and a half. This one is about an hour and 20. So I'm getting better at sticking to my goals here. If you enjoyed the Secret Show, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please ask me more questions for next week. I want to keep it going. I really like answering the Q&A portion. Love hearing what you guys have to ask me. So please keep asking me questions. But that's going to be it for today's show. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as right back here on Patreon for next week's episode of the Soup's Secret Show. And remember, I think I'm going to do this as my outro. I don't know. And remember, shh, don't tell anyone. All right. I'll see you guys next week.